You do not become lucky, you are lucky. You do not earn miracles, you are the miracle. The moment you begin to relax into this truth, life reshapes itself around your awareness. The outer world, which seems so solid, so real, is but a shadow, a reflection of the inner state you entertain. And when you entertain the feeling of being fortunate, when you dwell in the assumption that everything is always working in your favor, that becomes your experience. Not because the world changes first, but because you do. The secret is not in striving, struggling, or proving your worth. The secret is in stillness, in the quiet knowing that all things are being added unto you. Your fortune isn't somewhere out there waiting to be found. It is already within, waiting for your recognition. The treasure was never buried in the world. It was buried in your consciousness, in your ability to accept that you are the favored one, the chosen one, the divinely supported one. Every breath you take is evidence of this miraculous luck. The body functions, the heart beats, the sun rises, all without your effort. Do you think the larger matters of your life are different? Do you believe your purpose, your abundance, your relationships, or your healing requires strain? No. They only require your consent. And you consent by imagining, by feeling, by knowing within yourself that you already are what you used to hope to become. The moment you stop resisting, the moment you release the compulsive need to make things happen, the world moves in ways that astonish you. Things fall into place. People appear. Doors open. It is not because you fought harder. It is because you remembered the truth. You are already the embodiment of divine favor. There is nothing accidental about your existence. Awaiting your desires are not random. They are messages from the unseen world, showing you what is already yours in another realm, waiting to unfold in time. When you feel lucky, the world confirms it. When you feel blessed, the world mirrors it. This is not superstition, this is law. The law of consciousness is exact. As within, so without. When you entertain the idea that you are already living in the center of grace, you begin to see evidence of it everywhere you turn. And it happens not because you forced it, but because you relaxed into it. Because you stopped doubting and started dwelling in the state of already having it. You are not waiting for your lucky break, you are the lucky break. You are not chasing miracles, you are the miracle in motion. So rest. Not in weakness, but in power. Rest in the certainty that your imagination is the creative force behind all appearances. Rest in the assurance that every time you assume you are lucky, you're planting seeds of ease, joy, and favor in the field of consciousness. And those seeds must grow, they must take shape, they must reflect your inner acceptance. You do not have to beg for what is already yours. You only need to claim it in the silence of your mind. Sit still and feel the truth of this. Everything you want is already given. Everything you seek is seeking you, drawn magnetically by the feeling you nurture within. When you walk as if you are blessed, life will bless you. When you speak as if you are favored, life will favor you. When you relax, life begins to reveal the miracle you have always been. You are already the miracle you seek. Luck is your natural state, not something to chase. This truth is hidden from the one who looks outward for validation. The world will never confirm your worth until you do. The miracle you're waiting for is not in a future event, a special person, or a divine intervention. The miracle is you, right now, as you are. Before you lift another finger, before you fix another flaw, before you chase another goal, the miracle is embedded in your awareness, in your very being. It is not earned, not granted, and certainly not withheld. It is constant and complete, waiting only for your recognition. From the moment you were born, you carried within you the pattern of fulfillment. Just as an acorn contains the pattern of the mighty oak, you hold within yourself the blueprint of every desire you'll ever have. You are not separate from the fulfillment of those desires. You are their origin. The problem is that we've been taught to reverse the order. We've been taught that things must happen externally first, and only then are we allowed to feel fortunate, grateful, or fulfilled. But that is the grand illusion. The truth is, the feeling must come first. The knowing must precede the manifestation. This is why you can meet someone who has everything and still feels empty, and another who appears to have little and walks in quiet, radiant confidence. The difference is not their conditions, but their consciousness. To realize you are already the miracle is to no longer strive in desperation. It is to abandon the false idea that you must prove your worth to receive goodness. The truth is that you are goodness. You are the evidence of divine favor in motion. You are the proof that life is already working. Look at your body. It breathes without your effort. Your heart beats without your command. Your cells regenerate. Your wounds heal. Your thoughts come and go. You are sustained by a force greater than logic. And yet we often overlook this daily miracle in search of some grand reward. But what if the grand reward was the awareness that nothing is missing? You have been conditioned to believe that luck is random, reserved for the chosen few, bestowed upon those who are either exceptional or privileged. But luck is not random. It is not rare. It is a natural consequence of alignment with your true nature. And your true nature is abundance. When you begin to accept that you are already the recipient of divine order, you stop seeking and start allowing. You stop chasing and start receiving. You stop doubting and start remembering. The remembrance is the key. It awakens the part of you that was never asleep, only ignored. To feel miraculously lucky is to tune yourself to the frequency of the already accomplished. You don't ask, when will it happen? You ask instead, how does it feel now that it has happened? And you live from that inner assurance. That feeling becomes the magnet. That conviction becomes the command. It doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you know what shapes reality. Reality is not the master. It is the servant of your inner state. It bends, stretches, and molds itself to fit the container of your imagination. So when you feel lucky, when you truly believe you are favored, supported, and blessed, reality cannot help but reflect that belief. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time. You will meet people who see your light. You will stumble into opportunities that feel too perfect to be planned. But it won't be random. It will be the outpicturing of the assumption you have chosen to dwell in. When you rest in the idea that you are already lucky, you give up the burden of needing to fix, force, or fight your way through life. This does not mean that effort becomes meaningless. It means that effort becomes joyful, effortless in its own way, because it is no longer rooted in lack. When you believe you are already lucky, you approach action from fullness rather than need. You write because you are inspired, not because you're desperate to be seen. You serve because you are overflowing, not because you are trying to earn your place. You give because you know there is always more. You speak because your voice matters, not because you're trying to convince others of your value. To walk through life with this inner knowing is to walk in grace. You stop measuring your worth by your productivity. You stop asking the world to reflect something you don't yet believe about yourself. And slowly, the outer begins to mirror the inner, because it must. Because consciousness is the only cause. You may be tempted to dismiss this as wishful thinking, but look around. Everything man-made you see began in imagination. Every structure, every invention, every miracle story, it all started with someone seeing the unseen and daring to believe it was already done. Your life is no different. What you call luck is simply the visible result of invisible alignment. When you accept that you are the miracle, you move through life with a quiet power. You do not rush. You do not beg. You do not worry. You know that what is yours cannot be taken, delayed, or denied. You understand that the entire universe is rigged in your favor, not because you are better, but because you have chosen to remember. You see the world not as an obstacle course, but as a mirror, and in this mirror you begin to see reflected back the truth you dared to assume, that you are already divinely guided, divinely held, and divinely lucky. The outer world mirrors the inner assumption. Feeling lucky internally manifests visible favor. Everything you see around you, your relationships, your finances, your health, your opportunities, is a direct expression of the state of consciousness you occupy. It is not circumstance that shapes awareness, but awareness that shapes circumstance. The world does not operate independently of your thoughts and feelings. It responds with absolute precision to the tone of your inner dialogue. What you accept as true within yourself becomes what you experience as real without. This is not metaphor, nor is it a poetic abstraction, it is law. Consciousness is the only reality. Every condition you call fact, every event you describe as fate, every coincidence you label as luck, all of it flows from the state you have assumed to be yours. The moment you believe that you are lucky, that unseen forces are working on your behalf, that life conspires in your favor, you shift the foundation from which all else flows. You may not see it instantly, but the unseen is always forming the scene. The change begins within and reveals itself in time. What most fail to understand is that the assumption itself is the cause. We have been conditioned to wait for evidence before we believe. But the creative power of the universe works in reverse. Belief creates evidence. To feel lucky before there is reason to feel lucky is not self-deception, it is self-creation. The feeling comes first, and the outer must correspond. The person who walks through life with the certainty that they are blessed will encounter blessings. The one who assumes favor will meet favor. The world will rearrange itself to match the script you silently handed. You do not need to convince others. You do not need to persuade the world. You only need to dwell in the state of already being the lucky one. That dwelling, that inner atmosphere becomes the seed from which all else grows. And the world cannot help but show you what you have already chosen to believe. The people you meet, the calls you receive, the doors that open, they are not arbitrary. They are drawn to the assumption you carry, like a magnet draws iron. You can change the outer conditions only by changing what you persist in imagining to be true. Many seek external change by rearranging the furniture of life. New jobs, new places, new relationships, without ever changing the assumptions that created the original setting. And so the same patterns repeat, the same frustrations reappear, the same cycles continue. But the one who turns inward, who begins to revise the story they tell about themselves, who replaces the assumption of lack with the knowing of abundance, will find that the world bends to match that new vision. You are not at the mercy of the world. The world is at the mercy of your belief. When you choose to feel lucky, even in the absence of visible reason, you are planting seeds in the soil of the unseen. You are saying, I know who I am, I know what belongs to me, I know that life moves for me, not against me. That conviction shifts the entire structure of your reality. What you once thought was blocked suddenly flows. What once seemed impossible suddenly feels inevitable. And nothing outside of you needed to change. Only your self-concept. Only the feeling you consented to occupy. Do not mistake this for fantasy. It is the most practical truth you can live by, because it frees you from waiting, it liberates you from depending on outer facts to feel inner peace, it returns the power to its rightful place, your imagination, your assumption, your feeling. And from this power you begin to live deliberately. You stop reacting and start creating. You no longer plead with life, you instruct it. You no longer beg for signs, you become the sign. So feel lucky, not later, now. Not when the money comes, not when the love appears, not when the health improves. Feel it now and watch how the world begins to echo that inner conviction. Because it must. It has no choice. Reality cannot disobey the command of your dominant feeling. If you dwell in the mood of being unlucky, even temporary fortune will seem to fade. But if you persist in the assumption that everything is working in your favor, even delays will reveal hidden gifts. The difference is not in what happens, but in how you interpret it. And your interpretation determines your experience. You are always assuming something. The only question is, are you assuming by default or by design? Are you reacting to appearances, or are you choosing the state from which all appearances emerge? When you take control of your inner world, when you feel lucky without visible proof, you begin to understand that you are not here to beg for scraps of goodness. You are here to radiate it. You are here to embody it. And as you do, the outer world must confirm what the inner world already knows. So watch the world around you, not with fear or doubt, but with curiosity and delight. Observe how it shifts, how it responds, how it reflects. Let each moment be evidence that your inner state has power. Let each unfolding be a mirror that shows you what you've dared to feel. There is no luck outside of you greater than the luck you choose to feel inside. And once that choice is made, once you claim it, not as a wish but as a fact, everything begins to change, not because the world is arbitrary, but because it is faithful to the assumption you live in. Struggle is unnecessary. True creation begins in rest, stillness, and inner acceptance. The world has taught you that the harder you work, the more you earn, that sacrifice is noble, that effort equals worth, and yet there is another truth, quiet, ancient, and unwavering, that whispers from within. Creation does not require effort. It requires belief. It requires alignment with that which is already true in imagination. The moment you stop fighting for outcomes and begin to dwell in the feeling of already having, the machinery of life responds in your favor, without the force you once thought necessary. When you strive with tension, you are affirming that you do not yet have what you seek. You're broadcasting lack, desperation, and doubt into the very field that reflects your innermost state. You work to force the conditions around you, hoping they will yield to your desire, but they don't yield to pressure. They yield to certainty, to quiet knowing, to relaxed awareness. It is in that sacred space between effort and surrender where manifestation begins. Not from your hands, but from your assumption. Not from doing, but from being. You were not born to exhaust yourself chasing what is already yours in consciousness. You were born to recognize that you are the operant power, that nothing moves in your world unless it first moves in your imagination. If you can see it within and feel it as natural, the world must show it forth. This is not passive living. It is the most powerful form of action, one that stems from clarity instead of chaos, from inner peace instead of outer panic. Stillness is not inaction. It is focused presence. It is the deliberate decision to no longer react to appearances, but to live from an invisible cause. You quiet the mind not to escape life, but to take command of it. In stillness, you are not giving up. You are giving over. You are allowing a higher intelligence, the subconscious mind that shapes all experience, to take its cue from your inner feeling. And that feeling, when unburdened by fear or doubt, becomes the mold into which reality must pour itself. Rest is not laziness. It is the recognition that your true power lies not in physical movement, but in spiritual conviction. Your imagination is the womb of creation. When you assume a state and persist in it, not with tension, but with ease, you are planting seeds in the invisible realm. Those seeds grow in silence. They do not scream. They do not strain. And yet they bloom. Just like the tree does not worry whether it will bear fruit, you must learn to trust the process of assumption. Let the feeling of the wish fulfilled be your rest. Let it be the end of striving. When you sleep at night, your body restores itself. Muscles relax. Thoughts slow down. And healing takes place without your conscious intervention. In the same way, when you rest in the assumption that your desire is already yours, your life begins to reorganize itself around that still belief. The people you need, the circumstances that support you, the opportunities you once thought impossible. They begin to gravitate toward you, not because you chased them, but because you became the version of you who receives them with ease. This is the paradox of power. The less you try to control, the more aligned everything becomes. Not because you gave up, but because you gave in to the truth that your consciousness is the only real cause. That is why imagining in rest, assuming in stillness, is so potent. It is void of resistance. It is filled with trust. And that trust speaks louder than 1,000 anxious actions. When you no longer need to make things happen, things begin to happen through you. You no longer strain to manipulate the outer world. You dwell in the state of the fulfilled desire, and the outer world rearranges itself accordingly. True power never announces itself with noise. It moves in silence with conviction. When you observe the most miraculous shifts in life, you will notice they arrive not through force, but through flow. They come when you stop demanding and begin allowing, when you stop trying to earn and start believing you already have. This shift cannot be faked. You cannot pretend to rest while worrying underneath. True rest is a total release of resistance. It is the deep inner knowing that all is already well, and that your job is not to create the path, but to align with it. You will notice that the more you relax, the more the world begins to comply. The things you used to fight for begin to arrive naturally. The people you longed for begin to show up effortlessly. The money you needed begins to find new channels. This is not magic, this is law. A law governed by consciousness, by feeling, by the inner state you choose to occupy. As long as you live in tension, in waiting, in doubt, the world mirrors that back to you. But the moment you shift to peace, to belief, to the assumption of already done, the world shifts too. You've been taught to go and get. But the truth is, you're meant to go within and become. The external is not the source, it is the shadow. The source is always within. When you truly accept that, you will no longer exhaust yourself in pursuit of something that already belongs to you in imagination. Instead, you will rest. And in that rest, you will receive. You will let go, not in defeat, but in faith. And faith, when felt as real, moves mountains. Not because you push the mountain, but because you became the person for whom the mountain no longer stood in the way. Your desires are divine clues, revealing what is already yours in imagination and spirit. They do not come from outside of you, nor are they random or meaningless. Each longing, each vision, each silent wish that arises in the quiet of your heart is not a test or a tease. It is a revelation. You do not desire what is not meant for you. The very presence of the desire is evidence that the thing sought is already existing within you as a potential reality. And that potential is not static. It is waiting, breathing, alive, in the invisible realm of consciousness, yearning to be born into form through your assumption. So many people believe their desires are selfish, impractical, or too big. But nothing is too big for the one who understands that imagination is limitless. If you can hold it in your mind, you can experience it in your world. The desire is not asking you to strive or beg. It is asking you to remember. It is calling you back to a state where fulfillment is not a hope, but a fact. The fact is that you are already one with what you want. The separation you feel is not real. It is an illusion created by time, doubt, and the false belief that you must earn what is already yours by right of consciousness. When you desire something, it means it already exists in another dimension of your being. You cannot long for what has no root in your inner reality. Desire is not the beginning of something new. It is the end of something already accomplished. You think you are reaching toward it, but in truth it is reaching toward you, inviting you to dwell in its vibration, to claim it without resistance, to feel it as if it were already part of your present moment. And the moment you do that, without needing proof, without delay, the bridge of incidents begins to unfold. Life becomes a response to your inner state, and the desire becomes a signpost, not of what is missing, but of what is ready to appear. You must stop treating desire as lack. It is not lack, it is fullness trying to come forward. It is spirit whispering, this is who you are. And if you can relax into the knowing that your desire is valid, holy, and inevitable, then you will stop fighting against it and start preparing for it. You will begin to think from the end rather than toward it. You will stop asking when and start living as though it already is. Imagination is not a passive daydream. It is the creative power that shapes reality. When a desire is imagined with feeling, when it is nurtured with belief and lived with inner certainty, the world must bend to accommodate it. This is not optional, it is law. The external reflects the internal with precision, and the depth of your assumption is the measure of its outpicturing. The stronger your conviction, the clearer the pathway unfolds before you. Not because you push the world into place, but because you harmonize with the version of yourself who already has what you long for. That version of you exists now, not in some distant future, not after you fix yourself. Now, in consciousness, all possibilities exist in parallel. You are not moving linearly toward anything. You are selecting realities by choosing the state you occupy. Your desire reveals which version of you is calling you higher, and when you accept it as already done, you step into alignment with that version. And the version you look at now, you stop being the seeker and become the receiver. The desire then ceases to torment and begins to guide. It becomes the path, not the pain. You don't have to know how it will come. You don't have to explain it, justify it, or prove your readiness. The desire itself proves your readiness. It shows that within you lies the pattern, the capability, the state of being that matches the experience you wish to have. The only requirement is that you claim it internally before it appears externally. You must feel it real before the world will reflect it. This is not make-believe. It is the foundation of all manifestation. Your heart is wiser than you think. It doesn't ask for things lightly. It does not fantasize in vain. The dream that won't let you go, the desire that burns quietly through all the noise, the image that returns in your stillest moments. These are not illusions. They are signals from the greater you, the unseen self, showing you what you're here to express. And you cannot dismiss them without also dismissing your own power. Do not question whether the desire is possible. Ask instead, am I willing to live in the feeling of its fulfillment? Am I willing to let go of the identity that says, I can't have it, and step into the version of me that already does? Am I willing to trust that the desire is not an enemy to be doubted, but a message to be followed? This shift is everything. It takes you from effort to ease, from hoping to knowing, from waiting to receiving. Every fulfilled desire you've ever had followed this process, whether consciously or not. You imagined it, felt it, believed in it even a little, and then watched as it unfolded. The more deliberate you become with this process, the more miraculous your life appears to be. But it isn't luck. It isn't chance. It is the result of inner alignment. And your desires are the keys to that alignment. They are not distractions from your purpose. They reveal what you are meant to create, experience, and embody. So listen to your desires. Trust them, honor them. They are not asking you to chase anything. They are asking you to assume the state where nothing is missing. And when you dwell in that state, not just briefly, but persistently, the desire moves from invisible to visible, from within to without, not because the world has changed, but because you have remembered what was already yours.